In this video, we are going to talk about Night City, the city where CD Projekt Red's next game, Cyberpunk 2077, is based on. For those who don't know, Night City is a fictional city which originally appeared in Mike Bondsmith's role-playing game Cyberpunk 2020. So, without further delay, let us begin our visual journey. Night City, which is world-famous for its slogan, "The City on the Edge of Tomorrow," is located on the west coast of the United States between Los Angeles and San Francisco, in the Del Coronado Bay. As per the negotiations in the Northern Separation Treaty of 2012, Night City is a part of the Free State of Northern California, where the city is governed by corporate-controlled city council. In year 2020, the city's population was more than 5 million. From those 5 million, over 1 million live in city's wide streets and modern towers, where the rest live in Greater Night City area cities of Westbrook, North Oak, Hayward, Pacifica, South Night City and Rancho Coronado. Even though Night City was established in May of 1994, its history proceeds up to 1990. The father of Night City, Mr. Richard Knight, found Knight International in 1990. He had a dream to create an ideal futuristic city that would surpass all other cities. Founding Knight International was a major stepping stone for him to make that dream a reality. At that time, society was starting to collapse and people clashed with authorities on a daily basis. Number of riots were high, and authorities used their power excessively to counter those riots. Given that kind of violence and chaos not suitable for business, many megacorps wanted to create their own urban areas, where the cities run by corporate-controlled city governments. Mr. Knight's vision was perfectly aligned with those megacorps' requirements, and because of that, by 1992, megacorps such as Arasaka, IBM and Petrochem agreed to provide the required capital to build Mr. Knight's dream city. From the beginning, Mr. Knight had chosen the Central California coast for Night City, and by 1993, Mr. Knight's dream city was already started its construction. At that time, some considered that his dream city was ambitious but not achievable dream, but thanks to the megacorp's support he had the best odds money could buy. During the construction of the city, Knight International utilized a large array of unique innovative building styles and techniques, which created an exclusion of many old-fashioned companies such as Halsey and Ferris. This escalated to the level of sabotage and intimidation, where Mr. Knight had to rely on his corporate allies to deal with those threats in a ruthless manner. However, this issue ultimately led to the death of Mr. Knight. He was killed in his penthouse on September 20, 1998, and his killer was never apprehended. In his memory, the city's original name, Coronado City, was later changed as Night City. You might assume that after Mr. Knight's death, everyone got together and tried to build the dream city that Mr. Knight always wanted. If you made such assumption, we have to regretfully inform you that assumption is completely wrong, because what happened after his death is the complete opposite. The next several years after Mr. Knight's death were chaotic. The corporations controlled the city government and the corporate center, and the mob controlled all other service-related businesses. Gangs which were sponsored by the mob and the corporations, established their own sectors within the remaining suburbs of the old city, which is the area that wasn't part of the Mr. Knight's urban plan. The outcome of this is the infamous area that identifies as the Combat Zone. In Combat Zone, gangs have firmly established their operations, and the chaos is a part of the daily life. By 2005, the mob became one of the major players in Night City. The corporations limit their involvement to areas they control, and haven't shown any interest to run the city. Without the corporate support, city leaders were unable to put a proper resistance against the mob. During the next 4 years, the mob controlled the city and gangs were highly active. The number of illegal activities, gang wars, and unsolved murders reached sky high, and the police was very inefficient, due to lack of support from the corporations. By 2009, the mob was in a position to challenge the corporations to reach its goals. However, the mob's agenda conflicted with the corporations. Until that point, the corporations didn't involve to control the mob, because they never interested about well-being of Night City's commoners' life. But once the mob started to threaten their corporate agenda, they decided to take arms against the mob. And that was the beginning of an era which is now identified as the Mob War. From 2009 to 2011, the corporations used several lethal tactics against the mob, such as paramilitary operations, bombing, and assassinations. By 2011, the mob was utterly powerless and unable to control the city anymore. At the end of the mob war, the corporations took control of the city and started cleaning up the city. They have implemented policies to forcefully remove people from their houses, if they were unable to pay for the renovation of the city. This put thousands on the street where their houses were renovated to support paramilitary presence in the city, so they can keep peace and order. At least, that was the official reason the corporations gave, when they forcefully removed thousands of middle-class and poor families out of the primary city areas. Present-day society of Night City is an outcome of all those events that occurred after the death of Mr. Knight. All those events helped to divide Night City's society into several social groups such as power dealers, corpse owners, movers, edge runners, mulplexers, beavers and street scums. Power dealers are the elite society of Night City, such as corporate presidents, CEOs of major corporations, world-famous media personalities and influential politicians, belongs to this group. Unlike the common people in Night City, these power dealers are having luxurious life in their penthouses and they can afford finest things that money can buy. Corpse owners are basically corporate executives who are not wealthy as power dealers, but living very comfortably in the exclusive apartments, in and around corporate zone. The level of security in corporate zone is tight and restrained, where corporate police has the responsibility to sweep the area regularly, in order to maintain the zone's safety. Security cameras, security drones and corporate security patrols are common within the corporate zone. Living within the corporate zone is expensive but elegant, and it has several expensive nightclubs, theaters, and exclusive brothels to fulfill the needs of power dealers and corpse owners. With all those establishments, corporate zone's nightlife is vibrant and exciting. This vibrant and exciting nightlife plays major role to attract millions of tourists per year, and tourism is one of the main revenue streams in Night City. Movers are at the lowest level of corporate ladder, who usually live in the cheaper apartments on the edge of the corporate zone. Sometimes they even occupy a loft or a townhouse near the combat zone, where corporate police has no presence. In those areas, even the Night City Police Department has weak presence, where they only manage to keep violence from erupting full-scale in the area. In such situations, in order to guarantee their safety, several movers get together and combine their resources to convince corporate police to sweep the areas they live in. The next social group in the city is the edge runners. They are wealthy and successful members of underground society who live outside the corporate zone, mainly in reconditioned combat zone houses, or abandoned warehouses, or factories. Edge runners' lifestyle is primarily depends on illegal, dangerous and unorthodox occupations. Security in the edge zone varies from location to location, however, compared to corporate zone, the zone's security can be considered as loose. Even the remaining police officers within the zone are susceptible to corruption. Because of this reason, edge runners rarely meet any resistance from law enforcement officers within the edge zone. But that doesn't mean that they can operate safely within their zone. That is mainly because there are a number of gangs operate within the zone, and sometimes those gangs and edgerunners have conflict of interest. Because of that reason, edgerunners are one of the most heavily armed group of people in Night City, where a single edgerunner has enough firepower to eliminate a low-level gang. Edge Zone has its own nightlife. Its nightclubs and brothels may not be clean or luxurious as the ones in the corporate zone, but they still manage to fulfill the needs of their clients. Besides, those establishments provide another unofficial facility that their counterparts in corporate zone cannot. You might wonder what type of facility that Edge Zone's establishments can provide, where corporate zone cannot. After all, we know that corporate zone is world famous for its nightlife. As you can remember, corporate zone has a tight security, and that is bad for a particular type of business. That is selling and purchasing of contrabands. Selling or purchasing contrabands, whether they are related to drugs, weapons, or sex, is difficult in corporate zone. But thanks to Edge Zone's weak security, Edge Zone has become a good marketplace for contrabands. Especially, any nightclub or brothel in Edge Zone has become a good place to meet contraband dealers or buyers. So, if someone seeks contrabands related to drugs, weapons, or sex, then the first place he should visit is one of the Edge Zone's nightlife establishments. Most malplexes started as heavily secured urban shopping malls, around chain stores which are owned by corporations. Later additional buildings, such as a business office tower, residential condos and apartments are added. Even though security and stability in malplexes are high, living conditions within them are less than ideal. It is not uncommon, a single small room to be occupied by 2 to 5 people within the malplexes. Another problem with the life in malplexes is that the malplex police forces are notorious for their excessive use of power. Night City's malplex was established in 2010 as the new Haber shopping redevelopment and residential complex. This malplex contains hundreds of conapts, stores, recreational complexes with several schools and broadcast stations. It also has its own fire department and private police force. Beavers is another social group in the Night City. They are the suburbanites of the 2020 decade, where low-level corporate managers, mid-level executives and high-level techs live in housing complexes which are owned and controlled by corporations. The homes in a Beaverville are not large, but they are comfortable and inexpensive, where the low rent is automatically deducted from employees' salary. Also, corporate maintenance services are available for any maintenance work for a nominal fee. Beavervilles are secure and quiet, where corporate police patrol the area regularly. West Wind Estates, the Oaks, and Apple Corporate Valley are some of the Beavervilles around the Night City. All these Beavervilles are connected to corporate center via maglev lines, which are enter the city through lower level of Night City Transit Center. Life in a Beaverville is much better than you think, especially for someone who lives in a malplex. Living in a Beaverville seems like a luxurious life. The social group with the lowest lifestyle in the Night City, who are the urban poor, who can't afford at least a rent of a malplex conapt, are referred as street scum. Most of them live in combat zone, and those who are lucky live in decaying half-destroyed buildings. The unlucky ones lives in sleeping cubes which are commonly referred as coffins. Then the unluckiest ones live on the streets where the street violence has taken deep roots. Given that the city police doesn't make patrols in the combat zone, it has become the home of the worst gangs. The gang wars, robberies, murders, and any kind of illegal activities you can think right now are common in combat zone. Sometimes when things get out of control in combat zone, corporations send their special squads to neutralize the persons who are creating those problems. Apart from that, corporate security has no involvement with combat zone. Because of this reason, the life of the combat zone favors the victimizer, not the victim. Basically, it is a life where the concept of survival of the fittest has taken deep roots. We are closing to the end of our visual journey, but before reaching the end, we should try to summarize what we have learned about the Night City so far. Compared to the Night City's chaotic and violent history, its current status can be considered as fairly stable and secured. It is exciting and vibrant place, with very beautiful places and active nightlife, which is enough to attract about 9 million tourists every year. However, not everyone in the Night City has the privilege to have secure and vibrant lifestyle. Some areas are ruled by gangs, where the lifestyle is chaotic and violent. At the end of the day, some see the Night City as a chaotic and violent place, where powerful prey on powerless. But others see Night City as a city with a luxurious lifestyle, and as a city which overcomes its chaotic past. So, at the end, what do you think about Night City?
Personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility.